Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig. There are women who devote themselves both to raising large families and to serving their communities, frequently to develop a rare blend of strength, sensitivity, and organizational mastery. Shayna Rehberg-Paquin embodies that combination beautifully. She's my guest today, and I welcome her. How are you, Shayna?
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Happy to have you. As a mother of 7, including some children with special needs, she navigates the demands of home leadership and volunteerism with intention and poise. Her days are a tapestry of caring for children, guiding a communal project, mentoring initiatives, and responding to urgent needs, all while sustaining a spirit of creativity and optimism. Whether she is guiding a foraging hike, facilitating a support circle for moms, or helping women through moments of crisis, Shayna carries an unmistakable sense of purpose grounded in service. Her life journey has been a multifaceted one, as have been her contributions. Having lived in 4 countries, visited 15, and relocated 28 times, she has ultimately found her home in Tzfat, Israel, where she has happily settled for the past 11 years. Shayna began her professional life in real estate before transitioning into nonprofit work with the Jewish Federation and Livnot Ulehibanot. Later, as a freelance writer and development strategist, she helped secure funding for numerous organizations, including Plika and the Sefat English Library. She went on to co-found Sparks to Life, serve as a program director in Sfat's Immigration Absorption Department, and host Nefesh B'Nefesh. Pilot trips participants since 2010, people who made Aliyah. She's also a graduate of the Jewish Agency 3-year Tzahar Emerging Leaders Program and has received specialized training with Tzahash and Tahel to provide emergency and crisis support. Some people build programs, others build communities. Shane is doing both with vision, compassion, and an uncommon capacity for action. In Sefat, currently the poorest Jewish city in Israel, she is leading bold initiatives to strengthen and diversify the city's future, including a 5-year strategic Aliyah plan and a project transforming Bombshelters into therapeutic spaces for children. Outside her professional communal role, Shayna's creative spirit flourishes. She delights in music, writing, painting, gardening, yoga, sewing, imaginative recycling projects, and even collecting knives and teapots. She shares her life with her husband, Yishai Paquin, a rappelling and adventure guide, U.S. Navy veteran, and a current Army Reserve chaplain candidate. And together they have cultivated not just a household, but a life marked by bravery, generosity, and a deep belief in possibility. How is it to hear about yourself?
Wow. Sounds amazing. Who is this person? I want to meet her.
Yeah, I know. But I want to lead with that question, Shayna. Again, thank you so much for being my guest today. There are people who have a challenging time doing one thing in life, maybe 2, maybe 3. But you're the type of individual who has really ensconced yourself in many, many different aspects of your community, your family, the world in which we share. Have you always been like that?
I think it's something that I had to grow into. You know, some moms say to me when they have like 1 or 2 babies, they're like, I don't know how you do it with 7 kids. And then I think back and I was like, you know what? When I had 1 or 2 kids, I could not be doing what I am today either. Like I think part of it is also like a learning curve. So I want to give like some encouragement to new moms out there. When you have your first baby, you're just like thrown in the deep end, and it doesn't matter how many years you babysat or how many little siblings you had. Nothing really prepares you for parenting, and it is full on. And And so you just have to have like so much compassion for yourself during those first, especially 6 weeks, like zero expectations of yourself, really, and more like 2 years. Um, you're not going to sleep. You're not going to like, it's hard to even like just getting the newborn dressed. I remember would take me like an hour. I don't know. It was just so hard that I didn't want to break them. And so over time, you get like a rhythm and you get a pattern and you get to know, okay, I need to cook this much for these many people, and this is what they like, this is what they don't like, this is how to handle a toddler tantrum meltdown, and this is how to handle a teenage hormone crisis, and you just like kind of flow with it over time.
Yeah, the imagery that I have in my head, Shayna, and we've discussed this in previous interviews that you and I have done, is the idea that on your daily agenda, I can only guess what your to-do list looks like. It must be mammoth. I mean, between taking care of the kids and doing all the programs that you're involved in, which we will speak about shortly, you just how do you get through the to-do list? How do you manage it?
So I actually really like Google Calendar, and
Yeah.
I can show you that this is what my calendar looks like.
Busy.
Um, and it's also important because my husband and I share calendars. He's also got a lot going on, and that way we're able to coordinate, especially while my car was dead for the last month. The engine died, and thank God I just got it back.
Thank God.
But we were having to see who was taking the kids to school, who was working, where, when, and it was a lot. But when you have your systems in place to keep you organized, that helps a lot. I also sometimes have to do these like A/B lists. I just have to dump everything out of my brain to see what is going on, what's running through my head, and then divide it into like what things are priorities and what things are secondary, and then try to narrow that down to like my top 3 for the day. And that helps me get through things and also understand what I'm not doing. I used to have a really hard time saying no to things.
Yeah.
And what helped me the most with that was understanding that every no is a yes to something else. And so sometimes we really have to say no to certain demands on our schedule, on our time, on our resources, on our energy, because we need that to say yes to something else. And so that helped me a lot. Also, the juggling thing came from working in the nonprofit world for so many years. And so that's a place where resources are often limited. And I found myself a lot of times having to do the job of 2 or 3 people.
Yes.
So again, it's not something that just like I had from birth or I got it overnight, but from being in these positions for a number of years, I just got used to juggling. And also I spent 4 years as a single mom. In that period, I learned how to really stretch a budget and more about time management, because you're only one person and you've still got to do the job of 2. So those are some things that have helped me along my journey.
You must adore your husband now
I do.
because you have 7 children together, right?
So my first 4 are from my first marriage.
Yes.
And then I was a single mom for 4 years. And I really thought I was done. And then we met. And now we have another 3 together. So 7 in all. 2 are over the age of 18. My oldest daughter actually is running our clothing gemach for Sparks to Life.
Ooh,
We
that's
opened like a
nice.
secondhand shop, and she does such a fantastic job of folding, sorting, organizing. And then when families come in and they're like, I need a size 6 for my daughter, she knows exactly where to take them to.
Yeah. What is that like for you, sort of to be passing on the torch to your daughter and to watch her do something so important and so successfully? What is that like?
It's like the highest levels of nachat, like just there aren't so many words for it. but it feels great.
My son is 19. His name is Noah, and he is really starting to grow into himself. And he's being highly successful at University of Toronto. He studies international relations. And I asked him to show me his papers because I'm interested in what he's doing, and I want to be interested in what he's doing. And I read some of them, and Shayna, sometimes I have no idea what he's talking about because he is a young scholar learning things that I have never learned. And you're right. The words nachas in Jewish, in Hebrew, in Yiddish is Jewish pride. And it's very hard to define. But when it's there, it's like fireworks, parental fireworks.
Totally.
Right. Let's talk about some of the programs that you've done. We first met, I saw you on social media as you were raising at that time during the war monies in order to buy bomb shelters for students, for schools in Tzfat. And you ultimately raised enough money and had delivered, I believe, 50 bomb shelters. Was that right?
We are up to 61 now.
Kanena Hora. That's beautiful. Just let's talk about that for a few minutes. The idea that Sefat, which is an age-old city, wasn't developed enough that it was able to protect its little people, during times of war. And I don't say this in any way as criticism, but it just more of wondering about it, that you saw the need and you went about filling that vacuum. How is it that the bomb shelters were not available prior to that?
So in Israel, we've basically been in cycles of wars since the founding of the state, like literally since the moment the independence was declared.
Yeah.
And so a lot of Israel's history, modern history, has been emergency mode. And in emergency mode, you take care of only what is most pressing, and a lot of other things fall to the side. And it kind of hinders the ability to really look long term and plan ahead properly. And it's really just about here, now, what do I need for today? And so when the rockets are falling, then the people in charge of those things are thinking about it. And when they stop falling, they start thinking about the other things that are the emergencies for that day. And Sefat is also really unique because it is a very ancient city, and we have a lot of very old buildings here that are not up to standards for earthquake safety or with bomb shelters. Together with that, we have had immense population growth. I have a small family for Tzfat. I have friends with 10, 12, 13 kids.
Really?
And it doesn't even raise any eyebrows around here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you are growing that fast at the young age group, and you have all the bureaucracy that comes along with Israel of getting like building permits and pushing plans through and changing land zoning and whatever needs to be done in order to properly develop the school systems, it just can't keep up. And so what happens is September 1st is coming around and the city says, we don't have enough classrooms for all of our children. And so in a rush, they bring in some trailers and they either group them together for a new school or add them next to buildings of old schools. And this has been something that's been going on for years and years. So there's a saying that whatever is temporary in Tzfat becomes permanent.
Yes.
And it's true. They say, well, for now the kids will learn in this. And, but then the kids are learning in it. So now it's not an emergency because they're not going to sit on the side of the road trying to learn. They have a room to learn in. So then they move on to the next, what's the next emergency? And trust me, there are plenty here. Yeah. So then the rockets really were falling, and me being, not having lived through wars here before, to me, it was very alarming that children were going to school in schools that didn't have shelters. And when I understood that it was not something that any government body was equipped to deal with in a hurry right at that moment, then my friend Clara and I began acting, and we thought it was huge that we got one. And then we got the next 4 from the Jewish Federation, and we were like, whoa. And then we became the shelter people. And then we got in a few more and a couple more and a couple more. And it just like, I still can't believe what we even got to. And it's only because of amazing, amazing people and partners like Operation Life Shield and Joseph Hyman of CJEP and the Jewish Federations, and many, many thousands of private individuals who gave to make this happen.
Well, I want to mention Shmuel Bowman as well, who's a Torontonian,
Yeah.
whom you actually worked with, right?
Right. Yeah. He's the director of Operation Life Shield. And we got so much done with them, just like amazing stories and an amazing person, really a big heart for helping people. It's always great to work with him.
You're a true leader, and I say that because true leaders always mention the people around them. Have you ever heard of Wayne Gretzky?
I don't think I have.
Wayne Gretzky is probably the greatest hockey player who ever lived. Born in Canada, and not far from where I live. And he scored and made more points in hockey than any other player. And he would constantly say, when asked about his greatness, he would constantly say, it's all those people around me. And to me, that's what real good leadership is. It's recognizing the other people who have been involved in your process, in your programming, even though you may have launched it. Now, I remember seeing pictures of maybe it was the first bomb shelter arriving, and it's a big to-do, isn't it? Like you go out, there's a crane that's lifting it and dropping in the specific place, putting it down, and everybody was celebrating that moment. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it is. I never got tired of watching that whole process and filming it. Every time it's so exciting. And we had a lot of hurdles to get through on the way. Like, for example, that there was a lot of GPS jamming to confuse like GPS guided missiles. So oftentimes the truck and the crane driver had a hard time finding where to go. They would actually call me like from the highway down below and be like, I don't know, my phone says I'm in Lebanon, like, or in Jordan. I'm seeing signs for this and that and whatever. And so oftentimes I would drive down to the highway to meet them. It was easy for me to spot them and then lead them up the winding highways to Tzfat. We would get to the site, which we also had to prepare. Sometimes that just meant leveling a little ground. Other times it was pouring concrete. Or creating a retaining wall, like a lot of things there, maybe trimming some branches, whatever. But we had to make sure everything was ready before it came. And then the crane will open up and it has to take the shelter off the back of the truck and set it down. And it sounds like a simple thing, but it takes hours for each one. Like you can do up to 3 or 4 in a day, and that's it. Sometimes we were out there until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, especially if there was any kind of like issue that came up, like there was a fence that was supposed to be taken down and it still wasn't taken down, or we didn't realize that these telephone lines are in the way of the crane. And so we had a lot to learn, but along the way we got really good at it. And
where were your 7 kids when all this were happening? Did you have a little one in arms and the other ones were celebrating with you, or what?
Sometimes, yeah. My youngest was 4 months old when the war started, and so she was nursing. So yeah, sometimes she would come out to me with me on site tours to meet with contractors, whatever. So yeah, and then some we did, like I remember one we did like Erev Yom Kippur. This was almost a year into the war, and it was during like a peak season, and we had a lot going on, and so a lot more people were giving. But then we had to make sure that we could actually deliver. Once they had put out the money for a shelter, we needed to get it on the ground. And so my husband and I were juggling kids back and forth. And I remember that Erev Yom Kippur, I met the truck and the crane at the playground, and I had my 3-year-old with me.
Yeah, Erev Yom Kippur. Do you remember anything about the truck driver? Because someone just wrote me that the beauty of living in Israel is that they were taking a Monita cab from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and the cab driver stopped because he wanted to daven mincha. He wanted to pray the afternoon services. Do you remember anything about the truck drivers, the crane drivers?
Oh, that's cool. Well, we had different ones. One that really stands out to me, though, is we had a Druze crane driver, an operator, and we were talking about how his Miluim service had affected his business.
Yes.
Because he was still serving on and off when he was getting called out for reserve duty, and he was out there putting in these shelters. And it was really so wonderful just to feel that sense of solidarity and to know that we're really in this together, and they feel the danger too, and they're standing with us and fighting with us to defend this land and our people.
When the sirens go off, are you thinking like a mother of 7 and a community leader? Are you thinking about those little kids who now have a place to run into, a bomb shelter? How do you juggle in your mind, in your soul, if you will, your responsibilities both as a mom and as a community leader?
When the sirens go off, there's not a whole lot of time for thinking. You get 30 seconds to reach a safe space. And 30 seconds seems like a whole lot if you're trying to do a plank, but it seems like not very much when you're not sure where your 2-year-old ran off to, and maybe the 4-year-old is up climbing a tree and in the front yard, and your husband just went out for a run in the neighborhood. And so you end up staying really close to home in the beginning until you can't anymore. And when a war is very short, you can just hunker down and stay safe. And when it's long like that, the trouble is figuring out how to carry on with regular life while still staying safe. And sometimes that puts you in awkward situations. But when the sirens would go off, first and foremost, it was all about getting my kids or whoever's around me into a safe space. Once we did that, I straight away was on my phone. Why? We have about 10% of the population in Sefat is English speaking. And before the war already, I had a WhatsApp community where I would post different announcements and updates and city events and things like that, just to help get the word out there for people who couldn't keep up with the Hebrew news. And what I ended up doing during the war was translating everything that was happening. And we had like some slight malfunctions with the apps sometimes. So I had contacts at Homefront Command that I could get questions answered from, or updates from, or city announcements before they went out to anyone else. And so I would translate everything into English and post it, including where the sirens were happening, if there were booms, if they were not our booms. That became one of our mantras during the war. Those are not our booms. we just hear them from Scott. It's Meron getting bombed. Don't worry.
Interesting how Israelis live that way, compare your town to another town. Who's getting bombed right now?
Yep. And if it's not us, it's not us. Life carries on.
Yeah.
You got to do your grocery shopping, and you got to do whatever you need to do to get by.
Shayna, a little bit of background on Tzfat, which in our conversation in my intro today, I said that it's the poorest Jewish city in the entire country. But with that, there are some great, great righteous people, men, learners who have come out of Sefat. Isaac Luria, 1534 to 1572. Joseph Cairo, 1488 to 1575. He was a prominent halachist and author of the Shulchan Aruch, a foundational legal code of Jewish law. The Jewish community itself is predominantly Jewish, with a mix of Ashkenazi and Sephardic Jews. There's lots of tourism in Sefat, lots of art and culture, and agriculture. I would suggest to people that they go online and they study up on Sefat, because it's an incredible city. It's mountainous in nature. It's mystical in nature. So my question to you, Shayna Paquin, is is it your leadership that you brought to Sfat, or is it Sfat that took you down the road of leadership?
Oh, I really grew into leadership in Sfat. And it started with joining that 3-year program that was started by the Palm Beach through Jewish Federation, through the Jewish Agency,
Yeah.
connecting Tzfat, Chatzor, and Rosh Pina. So that's the Tzachar region. And we're 3 little towns that are all really close together, but we don't really interact much. And so the idea was to take the partnership region and get people to get to know each other and start working together, knowing their own city's strengths and weaknesses and each other's, and how we can work together, and developing that personal leadership in each of us to take responsibility for our region. And that was an amazing program. It was 3 years. I learned so much, and I started it while I was a single mom and got married during the program. Finished it, and it was shortly after that Clara and I started Sparks to Life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that definitely threw me into that. I have since finished another leadership program called Galilist, which is now spreading the net wider than just our little region. We have the Eshkol, which is a regional cluster of the Eastern Galilee, and it's made up of 18 municipalities. And so together with the Jewish Federation of Vancouver, the Rehberg Foundation, and a couple of other supporters, a leadership program was started to bring us together as a region, getting people to work together, giving them skills and tools. And it's been a really fascinating journey. I actually just graduated a couple weeks ago, and it included a trip to Vancouver.
Yes, I know you were there. Yes,
it was really fascinating.
Did you go up the tram to the mountain?
We did, and it started snowing right when we got up there. Yes. It was magical.
I played harmonica on that tram all the way up.
Yeah. I have to say, though, about the tourism. So Tzfat used to be known for tourism. And in fact, about 8 to 10 years ago, I remember reading there were 1.2 million tourists that spent the night in Tzfat every year. And that's like in addition to all the people that come through birthright trips, family trips, and they come for a couple hours, shop in the galleries, have lunch, whatever. Go to the ancient cemetery, do some sightseeing, and move on for the day. So COVID put an abrupt end to that because people stopped traveling, of course. And then we did not even fully recover from that when the war started. And immediately we had a full year of rockets. And then even after that, still the war kind of moved to other parts of the rockets, rather, especially the ballistic missiles, moved to other parts of the country as well. And but even once things quieted down, still when tour groups come, they're tending to stay in the center more, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv area. And the north is still considered like a little bit maybe scary, or not everyone has even come back home if they were evacuated from certain towns. And so business is very slow there. And so that is part of what has definitely brought Sefat down financially so far, because tourism was our main industry and it's disappeared.
So let's take this opportunity then to do something special. About Sefat, it's, as I said, it's historical in nature. There's a huge artistic community. The panoramic views are stunningly gorgeous, which I remember in my days in Sefat. There are annual festivals, and there are great hiking, I guess, paths that you can take.
Mm-hmm.
Is it scary in Sefat? Are their considerations correct? Or is it pretty friendly and warm and safe at this point?
It's not scary at all. It's so quiet here. It is funny because I was interviewed during the war and someone asked me why I moved to Tzfat. And I said, well, this is going to sound funny now, but for the peace and quiet.
Yeah, that's
um,
funny actually.
I lived in Jerusalem previously, and in Tzfat, we don't have, thank God, the car rammings, bus bombings, stabbings, all those kind of things that happen in other areas, we don't have. I also grew up in San Antonio, Texas, where every night on the news there were drive-by shootings and gang violence and all sorts of things, and we don't have that either. Um, even sometimes people would ask me, don't you want to go back to the US? Maybe you'd feel safer there. And I say, I know that I can send my kids to school and we don't have school shootings here. So I actually feel much safer in Israel in general, but especially in Sfat, just being a kind of quiet, out of the way place. I think it's probably one of the safest places I've ever lived.
Does one actually fall in love with the city?
Oh yes, it's
Are you in
terrible.
love with Tzfat?
I am. It's, yeah, even with all of its problems and issues and shortcomings and whatever, it's a charming, enchanting, really magical place.
Yeah.
And most of that is the people. Um, I don't know if I told you this in my interviews before, but when I was a single mom, I found just some of the most sweet support from random people. One day my car broke down, and this guy that I didn't even know his name, but we would pass each other on the way to and from work sometimes. He was like, "Oh, you're late today." And I was like, "Yeah, my car broke down. I had to walk my kids to school." He just pulls his car keys out of his pocket and is like, "Just bring it back to me this evening." And like, you wouldn't believe just the kindness here. There are people who have gone through illnesses and the community has gotten together and brought them meals for a month.
Yeah.
There's, people are just, they're here for each other. They visit each other. They rejoice together. They grieve together. And there's just such a sense of community here.
Tell us about the mystical aspect of Tzfat that everybody speaks of. Are you involved with that at all?
I have to be honest, I'm probably one of the few people in Sefat that's not into all of that so much.
Yeah.
I'm like super practical and very like feet on the ground kind of approach. I'm definitely a very spiritual person, but I've never really been interested in Kabbalah so much.
Do you have mystical friends, if you will, people whom you know down the road who are involved in Kabbalah?
Oh yeah, for sure. Lots of people here.
And did they talk to you about it?
I don't know if it's something that comes up all the time. I mean, certain elements of it though are just without like the fancy buzzwords. They're just part of our everyday life as Jews or as connected or spiritual people. I think sometimes people try to make more out of it than there is, but ultimately, for me, spirituality is and mysticism is, first of all, acknowledging that God is so much bigger than we can even imagine, and whatever words we can try to use to describe things don't even come close. And another big part of it is for me recognizing that everyone's connection to their creator might look a little bit different. And if we really have an open mind to understand how multifaceted God is, then the people created in his image are also going to be super multifaceted. And the way that we each connect to our creator is going to look a little different. And so there tends to be less judgment. And I do find that in Sfat as well, that it's less cliquish. In some big cities, like you live in your neighborhood with like your little group and your Rebbe and your way that the women tie their headscarves and your type of hat that the men will wear and whatever it is. Yeah. And here in Sfat, it's so much more mixed. Like, because we're a small town, we don't have the luxury of dividing ourselves too much. And I really like that also because I'm a little bit out of the box myself.
Yes.
Um,
Are you, am I correct? You're Shomer Shabbat. You keep Shabbat. You're
yeah,
religious. And is Shabbat really nice for you? It must be, no?
so good.
Right?
Um, my first 8 years in Tzfat, I lived right in the middle of the city, and it was great for many reasons. But I'm actually happy the last like 4 or so years. I've been a little bit further out, almost 5 years now, a little further out. And at first, it was harder to be not in walking distance of our main English speaking shul, and just a little bit further out. But because I like live, eat, sleep, breathe the community all the time, that is part of how I keep a healthy like family work balance, is that on Friday I leave all of that behind, and phone goes off, computer goes off, everything goes off, to-do lists go away, everything stops for a moment, and we just unplug and we're together, and it's what we need.
Do you
For
go to
sure.
shul?
I don't. There is a little shul. Well, there are a couple little ones in our neighborhood. They're very Israeli Sephardi. The women sit kind of in a separate room, and there's this little slit that you can almost kind of hear what's going on in the other room. There's like a full wall blocking.
Yeah.
So, and they're not like the most patient about little kids making noise.
Right.
So it's just like, it doesn't work for me right now.
Shane, I want to take a step back and forward. Speaking about your programs, one of the things that we discussed was securing the bomb shelters in Sefat. You're up to 61. Well done. Way to go. But you're actually using those bomb shelters very strategically and very practically in a time of, if you will, not war, if you can call it that, or the intense war that we were at. And you have come up with a creative idea of using those bomb shelters in a therapeutic way. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So first of all, also not all of our shelters are even in Tzfat. We ended up expanding to Chatzor and Rosh Pina, which are part of the partnership region. But we have almost 50 here in Tzfat. And yeah, so from the beginning, we tried to look ahead, even though I know that's not popular around here. But we tried to really look ahead beyond the immediate need to what is going to happen with these spaces after the war. And so there are different styles of bomb shelters. You know how like some like Eskimo tribes have like 20 different names for snow, and we just say snow. So Israelis have a bunch of different words for bomb shelters.
I know, yes, I know.
And there's the miklat, which is like an underground bunker, and there's a mamad, which is like a room with a door and a window, a safe window, and it's usually attached to an apartment or building, but there are mobile versions. And then there's a migunit, which is the little ones that you'll see like next to bus stops or in parking lots. And those don't have a door. They're better for public spaces where people could just be continuously coming in off the street. And so you have to like go inside and turn the corner to be in the safe area. So we decided that we were going to do mamadim for the schools, even though they do cost a little bit extra, but it's a proper room. And it comes with tile flooring, electricity, a door, a window. It's a real room. And so if we have all these schools that are in these trailers and in cramped spaces, and everything's constantly growing. So first of all, we didn't want the schools to come back at the end of the war, whenever that would be, and be like, okay, now we want you to get this hunk of concrete out of our courtyard, because the crane alone costs 40,000 shekels to hire for the day. And we wanted to give the school something that would be long lasting and would be really useful and practical. So what we're able to do now during this less intensive period is to take these shelters. It also helps preserve them to not be used as like storage rooms, but to keep them usable as a shelter space. And we're turning them into therapy rooms. Now we have right now a lot more children these days who have maybe special needs, lighter to moderate, or learning disabilities, and they're mainstreamed in regular schools, but they get special services. So there could be an occupational therapist, speech therapist, emotional or drama therapist that comes to the preschool or kindergarten to do like one-on-one lessons or small groups. So if you're in a trailer with 30 kids aged, about 4, it's really hard to have a quiet space to sit and do this therapy with the child. And so what we've started to do is put in like an AC heating cooling unit to make the space usable year round, some folding chairs or stackable furniture, something that could easily be moved out of the way, shelving only built in on the walls, nothing that could fall over, nothing glass that could shatter. And everything is done with a lot of thought to keep it safe and to make the space really calm and inviting. And they've been very successful, and we've done 4 already. And we have a lot more schools that are like, can we be next?
Right. What is your measurements for success? How do you determine it's being successful?
That they're being used like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
There are kids in there and they're receiving their treatments and they're making progress. That's a success.
I want to talk to you about something that you mentioned before, which is your gemach, a clothing gemach, and that your daughter is running it, which we both agreed is a great nachas. How great are the needs in Tzfat or the surrounding areas for clothing? What sort of clothing is it that you're giving out? What sort of person would come to the gemach?
So we started in the fall last year with coats. We have a pretty intense winter season here. Nothing compared to you guys in Canada. I mean, we had a group of birthwriters here volunteering from Ottawa, and they were like all wearing short sleeves while we were bundled up in our coats. But
How cold does it get in Tzfat?
It'll dip into the freezing.
It will. Okay.
The problem is that it's really windy. There's like the 4 holy cities with their 4 elements, and Jerusalem is fire, Hebron is earth, Tiberia is water, and Sefat is air. And we get that not only because our heads are in the clouds, and not only because air in Hebrew, ruach, also means spirit,
Yeah.
but also because there are really high winds here and we're up on a high mountain. So it does get cold, and also winter is our rainy season. So it's like cold and windy with the rain, and it just feels like it's tearing right through your bones. So we started with coats, and we were able to get in actually a shipment of things from America, and we were giving out warm winter coats. My husband also was able to do a coat drive through his rabbinical school and brought back some from New York. So that was what we started with. And we have, again, large families here. And so even if you're saving clothes and passing them down, after you get to like the 5th or 6th kid already, you kind of need to like replenish.
Tattered, right?
Yeah. I mean, I have some things that I will buy for my 6-year-old, and I don't even get to pass them down to my 4-year-old because they've just got holes in there. Just
being used.
Yes. So with these large families, they need to replenish their clothing options quite a lot. And it gets expensive, especially when so many of them have been working in the tourism industry for a long time, as most people here did. And now the work has been drying up. And so we have a lot of families coming. It's become very popular. And we are so grateful that Susan, a woman in the community here, gave us a room to use under her house. And so we're able to have a free space. And so we charge like a couple shekels for each item. Although there are also families who come and we know they really need, and we just give things to them for free. But we've had bedding and shoes, and through connections, with the leadership program I was in, we've been able to bring in even brand new items that were like end of season from stores. And it's so uplifting. People leave so excited, so thankful. They get a fresh pillow or a new blanket for their child or a new pair of shoes or a coat. And there are kids who can go years without getting a brand new item that was bought just for them. They're only living in hand-me-downs. And to have something nice that they tried on, that they picked out, it's a very economical way to uplift someone's day.
I started and ran an organization called Via Hafta, which is a Jewish humanitarian organization. And part of our work was working with the homeless here in Toronto. And we would also ask people to bring in clothing that was appropriate and that we could distribute, obviously seasonally based. So in the wintertime, people would indeed bring in coats. And the thing is that because we're an affluent community, the coats that they would bring in were stunningly gorgeous and they were in great shape. And so there were two sides to that coin. On one hand, people could give away their stuff rather than selling it online or throwing it out, which a lot of people do. And obviously the flip side to that is that we were able to make a person on the street just a little bit warmer. So there's a plus. Am I correct in saying that when our viewers and listeners come to visit you in Tzfat, they can use your website at the bottom of your screen if they'd like to bring an extra bag, let's say, of clothing, right?
For sure. Yes, that would be very welcomed.
You should get people doing that. What is Susan like?
Susan made Aliyah from Hollywood.
Yeah.
And her parents lived in Sefat before. And she has a niece and nephew who live here raising their children. So even though she's relatively new, only been here about 7 years, she has deep roots, and she's been instrumental in getting this gemach up and running. And she's a journalist and very involved.
What are newbies like to Tzfat?
So it depends if they're coming straight off the plane or if they're coming from somewhere else within Israel.
Let's say from somewhere else.
So, maybe they've lived in Jerusalem for a while and they're just looking for a smaller town, someplace where they can actually know who their neighbors are, affordable housing, things like that. And I think a lot of people at first come to Tzfat knowing that it has this kind of mystical, enchanting atmosphere and reputation. And so there's a lot of thinking that it's going to be some magical fairy tale. And then they find out that there's like sewage problems and bureaucracy and and limited government office hours. And it can get a little bit frustrated. But the thing is, I think a lot of people who come to Tzfat are people of faith and are people who understand that Gamzu Tova, and even if you end up in a difficult situation, maybe I'm here for a reason. Maybe I'm meant to learn something. Maybe I'm going through something so I can learn how to do it so I can help other people suffer less when they're experiencing this. And
it's all for the best.
It's all
what about those folks who come right off the plane, drive up to Tzfat? Do you meet any of them?
I do, yeah. So I get to meet some people on pilot trips and host them and show them around and answer a lot of questions. I think there's a good amount of like shock at how Israel in general is not really a first world country.
Yeah.
And so they might come across some things that you would just never experience in a more developed country. But yeah, so there's a bit of culture shock for sure. There's also a bit of a high, like a honeymoon period of like, oh my gosh, we're finally in Israel, we're finally in the Holy Land, and we're finally in a holy city. and everything's holy, holy, holy. And then, so there's that like being on a high and like everything is lovely, everything is gorgeous, kind of thing.
Of course.
And then, you start to notice the little things that, has anyone thought about fixing this?
The sewage. Yeah. Are there any people in Tzfat who just walk around pissed off all the time? Oh, the city, I'm sick of it.
I think if they're really all the time, they just end up leaving. But yeah, I mean, there's a good amount of complaining. But I've tried to like organize the English speaking community to be more of a voting bloc and to be more of like to have more organization in what we do and how we're able to bring our requests to the municipality, because I really do think that any group that comes from another country is able to bring in their unique experiences, perspective, and solutions to problems. And that's part of what makes Israel so great in general, is we have this beautiful mosaic of people coming in from around the world, bringing in these different flavors. And that can be really exciting and beautiful. So I've been able to help streamline some ways that people can, instead of just like complaining into the air, really like file a proper report to the city authorities, or even getting a few people together to file together about the same issue, but independently, so that the city will then receive like 10 complaints at once and maybe pay a little bit more attention to that.
So you're probably loved by many and perhaps not liked by a few.
Maybe I don't really think about that so much. But I think that's also part of using my mothering skills in community, because let's say, for example, you have teenagers, right? They don't always love you. They don't always like you. Sometimes they hate your guts.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Right. But like, you care about them and it's not about you, right? It's like, that's her problem. Like, I don't know what's going on, but I didn't do that.
Are you going to be mayor one day of Tzfat?
I hope not.
No, you hope not. Okay.
It's really the most thankless job ever. Like, no matter how much good you do, people will still complain at you and criticize you. And in general, politics is really ugly. I did run for city council, and I wouldn't be opposed to that, although I have enough to do really without all that.
You certainly do. So listen, in conclusion, I decided, after learning that you were developing a 5-year plan for Aliyah to Sefat, and obviously the further development of Sefat, that I went to AI, my dear friend AI. Do you use AI at all?
A little bit.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And I developed a 5-year plan for encouraging Aliyah to Sefat, and I want to share it with you and see how close it is to your plan, okay?
Okay.
I'll just read you a little bit from each year. Here's the vision, and tell me if this is in sync with your vision. To establish Sefat as one of the most attractive destinations for new immigrants by highlighting its spiritual heritage, its natural beauty, its affordability, its community warmth, and opportunities for meaningful living. Close to yours?
That sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah? Okay. Anything you'd add or take away to that vision?
Well, just I would expand on some of those categories. Like, in order to make it an attractive location, emphasis needs to be put on education and employment opportunities.
Okay. Year 1, foundation and brand building. The goal to establish awareness and infrastructure. Key actions: create a unified brand, Tzfat, where soul meets life. Do you like that? Where soul meets life.
That is cute.
Okay, good. Launch a professional website plus social platforms showcasing housing options, schools, jobs, testimonials from current Olim. Produce short documentary videos featuring families who move there. We'll stop there on year 1. What do you think of that?
I think those are some really great ideas that I had not thought about. Like,
there you go.
Documentaries.
I know.
Although just recently, we partnered with an elementary school to be the elementary school that knows how to accept and accommodate children of New Olim that don't speak Hebrew yet.
Very good. May I suggest, by the way, and you seem to know how this whole process works, but I'm sure there are many people who will be watching this who may have some video or documentary acumen. And feel free to reach out to them or use me to reach out to develop feature films about Tzfat. I'm sure they would be
Sounds
brilliant.
amazing.
Year 2, community connections. Goal, turn awareness into relationships. Key actions, host international virtual info fair. North America, UK, France, Africa. Establish Tzfat ambassadors, current residents paired with interested families. Organize subsidized exploratory trips. What do you think of that?
Wow, that's cool.
You
Those
like
are
ideas?
a lot of those things are not in my plan.
Okay, I'm going to send this to you. Year 3,
Yeah.
infrastructure and incentives. Goal, remove barriers to relocation. Key actions, work with municipality plus ministries to secure rental subsidies, tax incentives, job placement programs, develop remote work hubs, and expand English language schooling and professional integration program. The metrics, 120 families moved to Sefat, 70% employment within 6 months, 90% satisfaction rate.
Wow, I definitely have the work hubs in my plan. And one thing that I learned from visiting Vancouver, we went to an area just outside of it, and it had been like a little ski resort for a long time. And the way it attracted people to come and live there was it specifically attracted people that are able to work remotely. And I think the same thing could be done in the periphery because we have a hard enough time even getting Israelis to come move up to the more remote areas of Israel. But if you have Olim who anyways are leaving their families behind and their comfortable, familiar surroundings, so they can come to a new place that, their family anyways doesn't live there, it's far out, and enjoy the beauty, enjoy the scenery. And if they're bringing their own work with them, then they can make it happen a lot better.
The Wi-Fi is good in Sefat?
Yeah.
Okay. Year 4, growth and cultural identity. Goal, make Sefat a magnet community. Key actions, international arts and spirituality festivals. Global marketing campaign emphasizing Kabbalistic heritage, artist colony, culture, mountain lifestyle. Develop niche aliyah tracks with artists, educators, spiritual seekers, remote professionals. Establish mentorship networks for new arrivals. The metrics, 200 new residents, 80% retention of prior year arrivals, and global media coverage. That's year 4.
Wow.
Year 5, sustainability and legacy. Goal, ensure long-term growth and stability. Key actions, build long-term housing projects for immigrants. Create alumni network of Sefat Olim as global advocates. Launch leadership programs for youth and young families. Commission impact study measuring economic growth, community integration, cultural vitality. Metrics, 1,000 plus new residents over 5 years. Population growth recognized nationally. Model replicated in other peripheral Israeli cities. What do you think?
I do believe that Sefat could really be a role model in this case, and whatever pilot program is implemented could then be taken, learned from, and copied to places like Kiryat Shmona, Katzrin, Maalot, and other peripheral cities for sure.
I guess the challenges in reading the AI 5-year plan is you must have a group of people who come to Sefat for what we'll call the mystical, and then other people who come there for affordable housing, right? I asked a friend of mine who moved to Efrat, you must be a real idealist. He says, not at all. I could afford a house there.
Right. Yeah. That happened to me in Toccoa when I made Aliyah.
Yeah, there you go, right? So that's the balance I'm sure you have to achieve, right?
For sure. Yeah. But I think that actually it means that Sefat can appeal to a wider variety of people that are looking for different things. And it is a matter of making sure. One thing, we end up attracting a lot of single parent families.
Yes.
In part because we have one of the best reputations of our Beit Din for being a Beit Din that takes get refusal seriously. Yeah. And doesn't allow get refusers to drag it out for too many years before putting them in jail, taking away their license, things like this. So yeah, everyone has different reasons why they come here, and I think the affordability can definitely be a big one. Yeah, for sure. There are always going to be people coming to Tzfat for the spirituality, for the environment, for the atmosphere here. I think the affordability factor is definitely going to be up and coming, especially with the rise in global anti-Semitism and people not only looking to see, oh, I can't afford a house in Tel Aviv, so why would I move to Israel? But more like, wow, I really need to get out of here to a place where I feel like I belong, and then they'll look beyond the center.
How much is an average size house in Sefat?
It really depends on what neighborhood you're in, but my partner Clara is a real estate agent, so if anyone's looking, she can hook them up.
But even ballpark prices.
So they have brand new apartments that are being built right now, like 4 and 5 rooms that start at like 1.8 million shekels, around 1.7, 1.8. A home with a little garden, maybe like semi-attached, could be in the neighborhood of like 2.2 million. Again, that's shekels. But it really depends on what neighborhood you're in. If you want to live in the old city, homes there are going for 4 and 5 million easy. And if you're willing to live a little bit, the south is like really cheap. You can get apartments there for like 800,000 shekels. And there are neighborhoods that are like around the old city area going up the hill, and those tend to be a little bit more moderately priced as well.
It's exciting, yeah. And when you talk about the sort of the renown of the bet in there in terms of people who don't give a get, what I saw in my mind, in my mind's eye, is that every little city has its own nuances, right? Nobody would know these nuances unless they live there or were listening to this podcast. The idea that your bet in is tough on guys who are not giving a get, that's fascinating, right? Because it's very local to Sefat, and it might be a draw to people, So I love those nuances. I love them.
I think it's also a draw even to people who never think they would need that service, just to know that the environment is one of caring for women who are suffering from abuse.
Yeah, very
nice. And
nice.
There's something special about living in a community that really looks out for the people who may be a little bit more invisible or who may go through things that you might not have to ever. But just knowing that it's a community that does see that and is always looking to help the people who need it.
Are you a Sefat ambassador?
I think I have become one.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm about to take a trip because my husband is graduating from rabbinical school.
Oh, Mazel Tov. That's great.
After 5 years, we're very excited. So after Pesach, we are taking a month-long trip to the U.S. We still have a few dates open for booking speaking tours. So we can, if anyone's interested in having us come to their community, we're happy to come speak about life in Israel during the war, after, rebuilding, recovery, resilience. We definitely have become ambassadors of Tzfat.
Yeah, send me a blurb on your trip.
Okay.
Maybe there's Canadian shuls or synagogues that'd be interested,
Great.
Shayna, as I mentioned, I've been spending a lot of time with AI. And one of the things that I've been doing, as you might know, is asking it to write a poem about my guests. So here is one ode to Shayna. There are women who carry worlds in their hands and women who build them. And then there is Shayna Rehberg-Paquin, who does both, as though creation were simply another daily task between sunrise and supper. Mother of 7, constellation orbiting her voice, some stars needing extra light. She moves through her home like a quiet conductor, summoning order from noise, peace from urgency, grace from the thousand small storms that visit a living house. Her days are woven cloth, threads of lunches packed, calls answered, projects drafted, crises softened, ideas planted like seedlings in thirsty soil. She leads mothers in circles of light, listening, guides feet along mountain herbs and wild thyme, lifts women from valleys of fear with hands steady as prayer. Perhaps her purpose walks beside her like an old friend. She was cross maps the way others cross streets. 4 countries live, 15 tasted, 28 moves like chapters turned quickly, until Sefat opened its ancient doors and said, stay. And she did, rooting herself in stone and sky for 11 bright years. Once she spoke the language of property and contracts, Now she speaks in blueprints of hope. From Federation halls to live note dreaming builders, from grant lines written like lifelines to sparks to life, igniting its name, she has raised invisible architecture, libraries filled, the programs that breathe, gateways for strangers becoming neighbors. She welcomes travelers searching for homes and tells them softly, you can belong. Trained for emergencies, she stands where trembling begins. Tahash, Tahel, reading hands in the hour when clocks hold their breath. Leadership did not crown her, she grew it patiently, like a garden that insists on blooming. Beside her walks Yishai, rope-wise, sky-brave, a man who has repelled cliffs and oceans of duty. That is Shayna Rehberg-Paquin.
Oh,
You like that?
that was sweet.
So I will send you the 5-year plan.
Yes.
We can help. And I will also send you the AI poem. So thank you very much for being my guest again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Always good to be here.
Shayna, as an ambassador for Sefat, any closing words?
Keep shining your light. We need more light in this world. It's a little bit goes a long way. And sometimes just one little spark can change someone's whole life.
Beautiful. And what about a last word for Sefat? Let's get people there.
Tzfat is a shining light. It was once the chain, part of the chain of the fires that would announce Rosh Chodesh.
Oh, that's right.
And because it is the highest city in Israel, it's visible from all around. And I think Tzfat is a beautiful, gives beautiful imagery of what it means to be a light to the nations, to be a light to others, and to kindle another person's light.
Sefat is lucky to have you, Shayna.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and for listening. I think there's an awful lot that you can take out of this interview. And one thing I would suggest really strongly is that if you're considering Aliyah, and many people are who were not a year, 2, 3 years ago, perhaps you should visit Sefat and see what it might be like for you, because they have some fine ambassadors there. And it's a beautiful city with lots of great stuff going on. And I'm sure at some point in time, they will fix the plumbing, the sewage.
Amen.
Amen. Until we meet again, as my dear mother, God bless her soul, used to say, Zygazin, go in good health. And we appreciate you watching and listening. Thank you once again, Shayna.
Thank you.